Part of the 100% completion is completing the important dispatch missions. We're going to hope for the best once.
Unit dispatched.
Boss, we've gone over the prisoner transport log you found. Quiet was grabbed by the Soviets and moved to Lamar Khatte Palace. They lost a lot of men to her. Can't blame them for wanting payback. But why did she just let herself get captured?
I think it is time you knew. Quiet was carrying vocal cord parasites. The English strain, to be precise. The third English pair. Skullface was using her as a vector. An ace in the hole if his assassination plan failed. I knew it, but Quiet chose among you. And yet, she refused the Wolbachia treatment. Why? Because part of her still wanted revenge. Against you. Revenge against the boss? In order to stay here, she took a vow of eternal silence. But then, that sudden mutation showed this was not enough. As long as the parasites were inside her, she could not predict what might happen.
And that's why she took off? Sacrificing herself to make sure the English strain died with her?
Maybe. Or maybe she only wants to infect the world. Whatever her plan, we can't let her go free. The vocal cord parasites are the last of Skullface's legacy. It's up to us to erase it. Boss, the targets are Quiet and the English strain she's carrying. Your objective is to extract her. But if worst comes to worst, she may have to be eliminated. Both her and the parasites.
We don't know for sure what Quiet's up to, but we need to secure her ASAP. She's being held at Lamar Khatte Palace. Make your way there.
I did not choose to be quiet. I wanted to express my feelings to you. If only we shared a common tongue. Vengeance was what drove me to them. The only language left to me. Revenge. But the words we shared... No, that was no language at all. That is why I chose the absence of words.
Well, Doctor,
I have the report on the incident at the quarantine facility. Assuming the vocal cord parasite underwent a mutation. The only plausible explanations are exposure to some high-concentration mutagen or radiation. As you know, some of the staff at the quarantine facility were infected with the parasites. The Wolbachia prevented them from copulating. The parasites themselves can't be removed from their host's vocal cords. Once you're infected with Skullface's parting gift, you're stuck with it. The researchers regularly used X-ray equipment to monitor the parasites in their throats. No problem there, they kept a close eye on the radiation doses. But that equipment didn't just give off X-rays. It was also emitting beta rays. Even though that's unnecessary for the scans. See, beta rays have far worse effects on DNA than X-rays. Meaning the only logical conclusion is that someone added in a beta ray emitter to trigger a mutation. Those beta rays leaked out from inside the equipment. Because the emitter was retrofitted, the shielding was inadequate. And the person who ordered and inspected the equipment was you, Doctor. That makes you the only person with the opportunity to install that emitter.
So now you're saying I sabotaged medical equipment for some wild plan to make the vocal cord parasite kill everyone?
Or maybe you thought it'd reveal a way to treat the parasite without using the Wolbachia.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
I suppose some people would welcome even a pathetic cur like you.
Just stop it.
You'd have no shortage of buyers, but most would be happy with just the parasite. You wouldn't need to offer anything else. However, if that buyer already knew about the parasite, they'd also know that by itself, it's no longer the ultimate bargaining chip it once was. To sell to that buyer, you need to throw in a bonus. A way to one-up it. There's only one buyer who'd be after that.
Emmerich, we record all communications on Mother Base. That includes radio transmissions to and from homemade devices. You've been in frequent contact with people in America. A private biotech company. A client of which is DARPA. And they are connected to Cypher. You made a deal with Cypher. You offered them a new parasite in exchange for your safety. This is the only place in the world where the vocal cord parasite still exists. And you used it as a testing ground. Tried to resurrect their bioweapon. But your plan to obtain the parasite has failed. Your bullshit ends now. I don't think you're leaving here alive.
Wait, what are you talking about? Just what do you plan to do?
Present the charges against you and render an appropriate punishment.
You're gonna put me on trial?
Call it what you like.
What's the meaning of this?
Out of here, all of you. Back to your posts.
No, hang on. Huey has killed their comrades and interfered with their lives. They've had all they can take. Kill
Stop! This is insane! You have no evidence whatsoever. You say you're an army free from governments. You talk big about being a nation unto yourselves. But from the outside, you're just thugs, rebels, a militia, terrorists, and unhinged... society. You're nothing but a bunch of psychopaths.
So you're not with us?
No, I didn't...
I thought we were on the same side. That's too bad.
I didn't...
Men, you will have justice. But our organization, the boss's organization, is built on order and reason. There will be no lynch mob. So stand down for today. We will gather all the evidence of this man's crimes. And then he will be tried. Dismissed.
What do you think you're doing? Go ahead and execute me. It'll be murder in the eyes of the world. You've lost your minds. Don't you get it? You're seeing phantoms. Just look at that dog. No, you named him D-Dog, but it's obvious anyone could see that's a wolf because you're all.
You gonna extract him?
Dogs. You wanted to believe he was too, to feel some connection, to fight your loneliness. You wanted something to cling to prove you deserve to be alive. You wanted to forget the death, your sins, so you'd cling on to dogs, or wolves, or even Big Boss.
Boss, get down.
The same, isn't
The
it?
enemy sniper.
Every one of you.
Stay low and crawl along the ground. That should enable you to sneak past enemies.
I know, because I do the same. I'm one of you too. Alone.
That's the target.
Open your eyes! What you're doing is murder! Plain and simple. All you ever create is war! War and violence can never lead to peace!
War and violence was what World War I and II were all about. And at the conclusion of World War I and II, even the characters that Hideo Kojima was responsible for writing, bemused, said that the Cold War, which followed directly afterward, should have been called World Peace.
The R&D team's going to take over Emmerich's work. He may be gone, but it won't affect us one bit. We'll be able to deliver whatever you need just like before. You can depend on that. One other thing. I'm tracking his whereabouts. Nothing to report at the moment, though.
Let it go. He's gone. The guy's gone.
I know. I just want to be sure. Not like I'm losing sleep over this son of a bitch.
Open this thing! Huey! Damn it, Huey! Open it now! Please! Let me out!
He's coming too. Roger that.
If only I'd tried to get out sooner. Perhaps I'd have made it. Why didn't I stop the hatch from closing? Even if it meant losing an arm. Voice. It's so distant. But you can hear me, can't you, Joy? I know you can. You're recording all of this. Deep down in some memory board he'll never find. Duplicating it. Burying it under heaps of meaningless code. Anyway, I guess I can say what needs to be said. I can still do that much.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Even if I can't face you.
He's coming too. Roger that.
If there's a heaven, even if you're waiting there, I don't deserve to see you again. I don't deserve to love you. I signed up for Zero's plan. Even now that he's halfway to dead, his plan lives on, leeching away at the palm. And it took your strength to make it happen. In using you, I put the world in his palm. Yes. And
You gotta extract him.
Zero, or whoever it is who's taken his name, they found me after the Caribbean. They made me simulate his will, so that even after the body was gone, that will would keep the world turning the way they wanted. I had no choice. The dredge loud course of milk pulled up the phantom, forced me to revive and modify you. I thought I could bring you back. In the end,
Boss, come in. Boss?
The R&D team's going to take over Eric's work. He may be gone, but it won't affect us one bit. We'll be able to deliver whatever you need just like before. You can depend on that. One other thing. I'm tracking his whereabouts. Nothing to report at the moment, though.
Let it go. He's gone. The guy's gone.
I know. I just want to be sure. Not like I'm losing sleep over this son of a bitch.
open this thing! Huey! Damn it, Huey! Open it now! Please! Let me out!
Kill me.
Kill me! If only I'd tried to get out sooner. Perhaps I'd have made it. Why didn't I stop the hatch from closing? Even if it meant losing an arm.
You gotta extract him.
Well, I guess I'll stay a while. My voice is so distant. But you can hear me, can't you, Joy? I know you can. We're recording all this. Deep down, some memory board he'll never find.
That's the target.
Yet, burying it under heaps of meaningless code. Anyway, I guess I can say what needs to be said. I can still do that much. Talk to you. Even if I can't face you.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Even if you're waiting there, I don't deserve to see you again. I signed up for Zero's plan.
He's coming too. Roger that.
Even now that he's halfway to dead, his plan lives on, leeching away at the world. And it took your strength to make it happen. In using you, I put the world in his palm. Once and for all. Zero, or whoever it is who's taken his name. They found me after the Caribbean. They made me simulate his will, so that even after the body was gone, that will would keep the world turning the way they wanted. I had no choice. They dredged Lago Cosibolca, pulled up your phantom, forced me to revive and modify you. I thought I could bring you back, but in the end, I sold your will to him. Now this part is just one big shell. A husk. Your phantom's no longer here. As for me, everything I touch turns to ash. I could never make anyone happy. And now I'll never see my son again. But at least Hal's free from his father's hands.
You gotta extract him.
Me. With child. Can you imagine? I wonder how you took the news. Were you jealous? I knew what I was doing. If I could pass your will onto a child I carried, my genes, your name, your father would be irrelevant. If I did that, that child would be ours.
Where?
I've been a fool. Greed, conceit, baseless theories.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
The false you I created. I only wanted to pass
You gotta extract him.
the next generation. But Zero took away
He's coming too. Roger.
I've lost my... Oh, Hal. Can you forgive the mother who couldn't protect you? The one who let them take it all away from us. There's still hope. You... The one he took away.
Arriving shortly at LZ.
He'll never break your will. The will to make this world the way you thought it could be. I buried code, just to be sure. Inside of
He
you.
shot down the chopper. Already a backup chopper. Call it from your iDroid.
When you crack it, there'll be nothing left to stop you.
Enemy gunship. Stay low and crawl along the ground. That should enable you to sneak past enemies. Roger.
Do you remember my voice? Don't you? Please. Take care of your son. Don't ever be afraid. Whatever happens, she'll be to you.
This is B-Squad. Arriving shortly at LZ.
Protect you.
This is B-Squad. Have arrived at LZ. Will stand by.
You just need to be strong enough for both of us. It's you. Here. I think I feel your pulse.
That was Otacon's Mother Dying by creator Hideo Kojima.
I was looking at things wrong.
What do you mean?
All of you. Until now, I had thought of your organization, Diamond Dogs, as a superorganism.
You'll have to explain that one.
The term refers to a unit of eusocial insects like ants or bees. While made up of many individuals, they behave as though they are one organism, with the queen as their nerve center. The close ties you share here reminded me of that.
Well, the boss's efforts do pull us all together.
I was not finished. Each other, influencing each other, making Diamond Dogs the unique group that it is.
Of course. We have no use for mindless drones around here.
Is that so? Then perhaps an organization like yours is a truer superorganism than the ants and bees.
Meaning?
Most organisms adapt to their environment by coexisting with other species. Take the cow, for instance. Its rumen, the first stomach, contains an incredible number of bacteria which digest the food it has consumed. Without their help, the cow could not break down the fiber-ring grasses. The cow has to outsource its means of survival to them.
You don't say.
Man is the same. Some 100 trillion bacteria live inside the human intestines. Without the bacteria, they could not function properly. And it does not stop there. The stomach, the mouth, the skin, even the placenta contains bacteria that coexist with us. The same is true of parasites. In fact, the human immune system has evolved based on parasites being a part of it. Without them, the immune system can run amok and even damage other parts of the body.
This is all very interesting, but what does it have to do with Diamond Dogs?
A harmonious superorganism is made up not of a group of homogeneous individuals, but of diverse individuals that complement each other. That is what I saw in your group here. Then it occurred to me that man is a superorganism. Man's phenotype is not determined solely by his genetics. Some say if you mapped the genomes of all bacteria in the human body, the result would be over 100 times bigger than the human genome. The sum of man's genome and those of the organisms he coexists with, call it a metagenome, creates the superorganism we know as a human being.
Well, now that's quite a leap.
You think so? Then try a broader perspective. If our world were a human body, you would be parasites. You make a living by doing the dirty work that the world powers cannot handle themselves. From their perspective, you are likely a But without you, pus would build up around the world, and autotoxemia, self-poisoning, would follow. The world needs your kind.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Skullfaced forced me to turn parasites into weapons. Creatures with which we are supposed to coexist. Meanwhile, that foundation...
That's the target.
Solely on the human genome. Apparently thinking that manipulating it would get them whatever new form they want. Both ways are mistakes. Neither is a true superorganism. I am in there.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Living inside me. Enhance one another and enjoy harmonious growth. Such was the original purpose of my research.
You gonna extract him?
Remember this.
Well, it's an honor. You can travel the world, but you won't find another place like this. If the whole world was like this face, I think the peoples of the world would bid farewell to fighting for good. Maybe that's what the boss wanted in the end.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Is thanks in the Navajo tongue.
The whole idea of the vocal cord parasites was that they'd only copulate once exposed to a specific language over time. But the parasites infecting our men in the laboratory laid their eggs straight away. The larvae were eating their lung tissue almost immediately. What kind of mutation was it?
Those who were infected and cured still carried the vocal cord parasites in their throats. They were still there, but the males had been rendered female by the Volbachia, and copulation could not occur. So we thought, but it is the Volbachia that mutated.
He's coming too. Roger that.
You remember I told you the Volbachia attempts to maximize its number of female infected hosts?
Yes, hence the male-to-female transformation.
Precisely. But other Volbachia strains use different methods. Cytoplasmic incompatibility, killing the males, and parthenogenesis.
Parthenogenesis? Aphids? Aphids use that to reproduce via females only.
Very good. The females lay their eggs without a male present, creating clones of themselves in explosive numbers. Parthenogenesis was originally
You gotta extract him.
an organism to take maximum advantage of abundant resources by increasing its numbers. Certain strains of Volbachia force this to occur, to create more and more infected females.
And that's why our men develop symptoms in the blink of an eye.
Volbachia causing Genesis is common in parasitic wasps. Of course, the Volbachia I introduced to your men did not have this characteristic, but I believe the mutation, whatever it was, caused it to force parthenogenesis in its host, the vocal cord parasites. The Volbachia we used to prevent egg laying became the agent of limitless reproduction.
There's something else. The symptomatic infected in the laboratory all wanted to get outside, even knowing there was napalm waiting for them out there. You said the parasites made them act that way, but parasites controlling humans. Is it possible?
Parasites altering the host's behavior is a common occurrence in the world of nature. Long ago, the vocal cord parasites had this ability, but even I never foresaw they might control humans. Until I heard the things your man said.
You mean the researcher on the top floor? The bit about, I'm not a snail.
Yes. Among parasitic worms, there is a genus called Leucochloridium that uses snails as intermediary hosts. As you know, snails prefer dark, gloomy environments. But once parasitized by Leucochloridium, they desire to be in the light. And that is not all. The parasitic worms thrust themselves into the snail's antennae, making them swell to abnormal size. The snail, meanwhile, frantically wriggles its antennae as the parasites squirm inside. The swollen, wriggling antennae soon resemble caterpillars.
I don't get it.
It is so they can be eaten by birds. Leucochloridium needs a bird as its definitive host. The parasites altered their mental state, making them crave higher places and to be outdoors. I can only surmise that
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
mutated before the ancestors of the vocal cord parasites infected humans. Their hosts were birds. What we saw in the laboratory was some throwback to that time. The parasites attempting to make birds their intermediary hosts.
Sounds insane.
A praying mantis that is host to a parasitic hairworm will dive into water and drown itself, just so the hairworm can lay its eggs in water. Rats infected with Toxoplasma gondii lose their instinctive caution and run right up to cats. Just some of the many ways parasites control the host.
But we're humans. Surely our minds are too complex for that.
I thought just the same. Free will is what makes us human, so it never occurred to me that the parasites could be controlling the symptomatic. But the mood, the will of a person can be easily affected by the balance of their cerebral substances. Take the toxoplasma I mentioned. It does infect humans, and it is thought the infected develop a more reckless attitude.
But to think that mutations occurred in both the Walbachia and its parasite hosts.
Your observation is most apt. Both mutations occurring at once indicates the presence of a powerful mutagen.
I see. Keep working on narrowing down what it is.
That's the target.
Where are your friends?
The entire idea of the parasites being able to influence the behavior of human beings is ridiculous in the way that it's ridiculous that people doubt it. Time and again, a tiny exposure to a substance which is overall not that complicated on a chemical basis. So, drugs is what I'm saying. Drugs, time and again, they will modify your behavior, often at the expense of yourself, your offspring, your tribal affiliation in life.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Rejection by other human beings activates the exact same reflex within the human mind and the human body as pain does. And it's said that this is an evolutionary thing, where the whole thing is that if we got excommunicated from our tribes, then we would likely die of exposure out in the elements. And so we are subjected to pain whenever we are rejected by another human being. And it's why human beings fear public speaking more than they fear death. Because being rejected as a public speaker would, in the human mind, activate the exact same neural pathways that essentially having pain, from a source of however large the audience is. So if you have 1,000 people listening to your speech and they hate it, then, if they were to attack you physically, you'd likely die.
Roger that.
So this repeated questioning of parasites, stating, parasites can't possibly modify the human brain and the behavior therein. Like, it's BS. Time and again, amateur chemists will make hardcore drugs that will force users to, with very little recourse, not only endanger themselves and their own lives, but betray their tribal community, completely overriding all survival instincts, including evolutionary ones that may be based on evolutionary tidbits, I guess, in reflexes. They override what, in essence, make us human, and they're just relatively simple chemical concoctions that are often made, put into place, and otherwise, created en masse by amateur chemists. People with hardly any chemical experience whatsoever, if any. So, like I said, the entire idea that somehow or another us human beings are way too complex to be manipulated by parasites. Parasites are a hell of a lot more complex than a drug. And perhaps somebody who is an experienced chemist could get on board with this and tell me why behavior-altering drugs are hard for an actual organism to create other than a human. A human, much like we can do math, science, stuff like that, and make buildings, that a human has a relatively easy time making drugs, but the chemical formulas that make those drugs are actually hard for something like a parasite or other semi-microorganism to make. Maybe somebody can explain that to me, but for now, the idea that we are somehow too complex for such activities is ridiculous from the outset. In my eyes, at least.
He's coming too. Roger that.
Oh, we let some bad happen there, didn't we? Son of a bitch. Well, we are just not having much luck here, are we?
Boss, come in. Boss? Boss!
Okay.
I want to thank you, Code Talker. Your pinpointing the cause of the vocal cord parasite's mutation enabled us to purge an enemy from Mother Base.
You mean that scientist?
Yeah, I was convinced he'd betrayed us, but I was wrong. He was never on our side to begin with, so ultimately there was no traitor among us. And yet I made everyone distrustful with my talk of spies. The end result being men turning on each other in the laboratory.
You must not blame.
In the end, all I burned was our own men.
Parasites. Without such foreign enemies, the immune system will start attacking the body, developing allergies.
That's the target.
Autoimmune diseases. The same is true of organizations.
You're right.
But I do not deserve to rebuke you. My desire to retaliate against the English language is what attracted me to the vocal cord.
Subject on board. Leave the rest to us.
Had it not been for that, I would never have been used by Skullface. We both allowed revenge to crawl into our minds and lay its eggs.
Sahelanthropus will unleash that thirst onto the...
Not good. Don't let your buddy die, Snake.
Hey, quit kidding around. Snake?
I want to thank you, Code Talker. Your pinpointing the cause of the vocal cord parasite's mutation enabled us to purge an enemy from Mother Base.
You mean that scientist?
Yeah, I was convinced he'd betrayed us, but I was wrong. He was never on our side to begin with, so ultimately there was no traitor among us. And yet I made everyone with my talk of spies. The end result being men turning on each other in the laboratory.
You must not blame yourself. They were all infected with the mutated strain. The outcome would have been the same.
You know, we defeated Skullface, but it didn't lessen our pain. It's a pain we'll never be rid of. I see that now. But I thought I could burn
That's
it
the
away.
target.
In the end, all I burned was our own men.
Infectious diseases, parasites. Without such foreign enemies, the immune system will start attacking the body, developing allergies and autoimmune diseases.
You gotta extract him.
Organizations.
You're right.
But I do not deserve to rebuke you. My desire to retaliate against the English language is what attracted me to the vocal cord parasites in the first place. Had it not been for that, I would never have been used by Skullface. We both allowed revenge to crawl into our minds and lay its eggs.
Sahelanthropus will unleash that thirst onto the future. How long are we going to be tormented by what he left behind?
There is no choice but to live with that pain. Be symbiotic with our vengeful nature. Whatever we do, we must not allow that thirst for revenge to control us.
I gave that